What is going on, guys? Today we are coming at you with another historic Brawl deck tech. We are here with TERGRID. I'll learn how to pronounce that one day. TERGRID, the god of fright, with the pretty art. So our whole job is making them sacrifice stuff, making them discard stuff. We want their permanents. All your permanent are belong to us. Okay. And so what we're trying to do is we've got a couple different packages in the deck. We've got a good curve in this deck. We're going to go through and see what some of the goals are, what we're trying to accomplish. As with all of my deck techs, some of this stuff is my personal preferences. Some of this stuff is limited by the numbers of wild cards that I have. Dude, look, I mean, it's expensive to make Magic happen, right? So, there are better cards for this. There's one I can think of. As soon as I get a rare wild card, I am putting Waste Not in this deck because it just fits the theme, right? But let's get into it real quick. We've got our first package is just creature package. These creatures don't necessarily do anything with the rest of the theme of our deck, but I feel like they're good either to fill a curve slot or that they serve some sort of function. Some of those are even win conditions like Grey Merchant of Asphodel. But we'll get into this here. I have a little bit of lifelink in this deck. I feel like it's a little bit slow off the ground. Your commander's a 5-drop. I almost never cast him as his backside. His front side just has so much value in this deck. It's not worth casting the backside to have it never die, right? We have some creatures in here. Lifelink is going to be a minor theme in this, and Death Touch is like a minor theme in this, just to kind of discourage your opponent from swinging at you. But if you do get swung at, you have a blocker that's not going to lose you life. You're going to gain some back. So Vampire the Dire Moon, Boot Nipper, Timorets. This one's nice because you put a bunch of stuff in their graveyard. They're not always creatures, but let's say that, it's before you get TERGRID out, you're still dropping your discard spells, you're still playing your kill spells, which we'll get into. But you can pay 2 and exile 2 creature cards from their graveyard and gain 2 life off of that, so it's a pretty good little exchange there. Vengeful Reaper, again with the Death Touch haste. Even Death, Draco Lich, he's a big boy. 4 mana 5/2, flash flying. And you can cast him from your graveyard if he died. So, I mean, he just keeps coming back. Gelatinous Cube, basically a kill spell on a stick. Nightmare Shepherd, getting a copy of TERGRID would actually be pretty cool. I don't actually know how the interaction works with dies and the command zone and how that works because it gets exiled. But I'm assuming the way that it works, if I'm not mistaken, is that your TERGRID would die. You choose to exile it, and then you can choose to put it in the command zone. I'll have to actually see if it goes off. And even if it doesn't work for TERGRID, there's a bunch of cards in this deck that I wouldn't mind having copies of for their abilities. Hell, I'd love to see a Gelatinous Cube hit. Get a 1/1 Gelatinous Cube. A Blood Glutton, Ghoulcaller Giza. This is sacking your creatures, but hell, you never know. You might steal something from them that's just not what you want to hold on to, and for whatever reason, it's got an effect that doesn't vibe with your synergies. Cool, sack it, get your zombies instead. Grey Merchant of Asphodel is a nice little win con. Soul Hunter Rakshasa, is another good one here. Cast it from your hand. These are 2 nice little win cons that fit the curve really well, I think. Zombie Ogre, if venture into the dungeon. We have somebody else in here that cares about the dungeon, so putting him in there, we'll get into him here in a second, but putting him in there as well just kind of helps with that synergy there of getting into that, getting a dungeon complete. Wandering Archaic, this is fine just to kind of slow things down, or if you're 1 land off, cast that backside of it, grab your land, gain your 3 life, get right into the game, and cast your commander. From here we move on to the fun stuff, so we have discard spells, sacrifice spells, and kill spells all together here. So discard spells, Devour Intellects, the Duresses, the Inquisition of Kozilek's, Liliana Steward, and some of these are creatures because, again, we can't have no board presence, and we can't rely on stealing their creatures in order to generate board presence. This deck does poorly against decks that can generate creature tokens because it is specifically non-token permanents that you can copy. So if they can consistently make little 1/1 dorks and sacrifice those every time you try and do something with them, well, man, you're kind of out of luck. Likewise, I say it does poorly against heavy instant and sorcery decks. Poorly is probably the wrong word. You just don't get nearly the same level of benefit from them discarding those instants and sorceries versus if they were discarding a permanent. Not only do they lose it, but then you get it. So it's double the card advantage of what you get from this normal discard if they can just pitch a sorcery or an instant. But regardless, put some of those discards onto creatures. Burglar Rat, Black Cat, Disciple. These two are the same card. That's crazy. Davriel, great little card. Demogorgon Clutches. This one's insane. I mean, 2 cards for 3 mana is a great value here. Elspeth's Nightmare, a little bit of both. You know, you get to kill something, and then you get to make them discard something. Go Blank, you know, make them discard 2 again for 3 mana. So the fact that those sets were, you know, back to back, right? That's crazy. Palaka Predation, you know, if you don't need it, you get the land, but, you know, a little discard spell. Honden of Night's Reach, so this is a small synergy here in this deck. I haven't played it with it yet, but I know it's in here where this is a shrine, and then in my little selection of just like kind of little good stuff to have, over here, there's the other shrine, the Life Gain Shrine is also in this deck, so putting both of those in there just to get a little bit of extra benefit is definitely not a bad thing. So yeah, I'll put both shrines in there, right? And then, oh, there it is. I knew it was gonna happen. Oof, we knew it was gonna happen, right? It's okay. Okay. Skull Raid, Cavern Whisperer, Mutate, discard. Westgate Regent, you know, the Ward is discard a card, so I'm going to include that in there because a 5-mana 4/4 flying is okay. Anytime he does combat damage to a player, he gets that many counters, so he can get pretty big. But also, if you want to target him, okay, cool, you might be giving me something. And then Bad Deal, I draw a card, they discard 2 cards, and each player loses 2 life. It's an even worse deal with your commander on the field. Next, we'll move on to Sacrifice spells. So, Chainer's Edict with the flashback is great. Sudden Edict, you know, Split Second is also great. Oh, this is the guy with the dungeon. So it's a little interesting, you know. You'll play him and venture into the dungeon, and with that other guy there, as long as you've completed Tomb of Annihilation, which you know does have some stuff here in Veils of Fear and Sandfall Cell that could really kind of benefit you. Like, yeah, you may have to sacrifice some of your own stuff, but A, that may be stuff that you've already stolen from them, so it's like you got it for free. And then B, you know, it's optional. I can choose to just lose the 2 life, but if they're not in a situation where that makes sense for them, they kind of get pushed to do it anyway, or they give me some stuff. So this is really beneficial. And then his actual ability, which is whenever he attacks for each opponent, I create a 2/2 zombie creature unless they sacrifice a creature. So either you give me a 2/2 or you give me something that's probably going to be better than that. Soul Shatter, they have to sacrifice the highest mana value thing, so they have guaranteed good stuff. Torment of Scarabs, this is basically the flip side of Tergrid, except it's not a choice. So it is, you will lose 3 life unless you sacrifice these things. So I guess technically it is a choice. The other one is not so much of a choice. I have another one effect like that in this deck, but it's 5 life instead. Eradicator Valkyrie, you know, you can boast it, sacrifice one of your own creatures, which again might be something that they have sacrificed or given to you already, and then they make them sacrifice a creature or planeswalker. The Eldest Reborn, make them sacrifice a creature or planeswalker, make them discard a card, and grab something from my graveyard back onto the battlefield. So from any graveyard. So you know, some of that early game stuff maybe that you didn't have Tergrid out, but you were making them sack stuff and making them discard stuff and just trying to keep a clean board state for when you finally could get them back out and stabilize. Hey, I'm gonna get that stuff now. Clockbridge Troll is an interesting synergy. I think it's just a good card anyway. But because the goats are creature tokens, they don't work with Tergrid's sacrifice ability, to where you don't get your own little chump blockers from them sacking the goats. That being said, I still think it's amazing. Gain your 3 life, draw your 3 cards, or draw your cards, and then, if they choose to sack stuff beyond the goats, that I will keep. That I will take from you. Turing Harvester, mutate, sacrifice a creature. Gourmand, was there a... Oh, mutate, discard a card. Wow, so you can hit... I didn't even realize I put both of those in there. Go me. This one, you do have to sacrifice a creature to play him, but when he enters the battlefield, your opponent sacks something. So again, similar to that other card, and similar to a lot of the themes in this deck, if you do end up sacrificing something, because that is a theme in black, if you end up sacrificing something on your own, it is generally something that you stole from them, so it's a lot less of a downside. And then in this case, you will literally get something right back for it. Professor Onyx, its neg ability makes them sack. The neg ability is the Soul Shatter. So, now it's, it's literally the same thing. So, great. And then the alt, dear God, if you get off to that, that's, wow, right? Cruel Reality is the 5 life version of this, so it is a much more expensive card than the Torment of Scarabs, right? 4 versus 7, but they sacrifice a creature or planeswalker, and if they can't, they lose 5 life. So this isn't the choice. They either have to lose this thing, and in the event that they can't, you still get something out of it, right? Demon of Loathing, 7 mana, 7/7 flying trample. When he deals damage, they sack a creature. Doesn't get any better than that. We have a few kill spells here, mostly for early game stabilization, right? We don't want to waste our sacrifice spells or our discard spells if we don't have to. So if we get these in the early game, great. Bloodsheath's Thirst, Fatal Push, Blade Brand for giving something Death Touch, Never to Return, I should say. Eat to Extinction, Bake into a Pie is just that's a pet card of mine. I think it's a really flavorful. Grim Bounty, the treasure token does technically link up with one of these discard spells that says if you spent mana from a treasure token on it, something happens. I don't think it's ever going to happen really, but you never know, right? It's entirely possible. And then Crux of Fate is a good little kill spell. This is the 1 board wipe in the deck. This is the other shrine, so it matches up with this one that's hiding up here now, the Honden. Goodness me, it just won't let me put it in here, will it? Interesting. I'm going to stick it over here. It won't let me do that either. It's broken. So these shrines go together in the sense that it's for each shrine you control. So they may end up in a position one day where they have to discard 2 cards and lose 2 life. And if not, those effects are fine on their own. Again, there's a little bit of a life gain sub-theme in this deck just to make sure that I'm stabilizing. Book of Vile Darkness, same deal, right? How do I stabilize? I don't have the other Vecna cards. I'm not as worried about that. I just want something on the field with some devotion on it for Gary and things like that say, look, worst case scenario, if I'm losing life this turn, I'm going to get a zombie out of it. Replicating Ring, just for a little bit of mana. And the 1 mana of any color is kind of nice too. Sometimes I don't steal their lands. Just sometimes people are really good about playing their lands and not discarding them. And so if I can go ahead and have something that lets me use a few activated abilities of some of my off-color opponents, because this is a mono black deck, I think that's a good deal. And Chromatic Orrery is there for that exact same purpose. Biblioplex Assistant allows me to get back a crucial spell. So, let's say I did have to drop an Inquisition or a Duress or something early on in the game. Biblioplex Assistant's just going to get that guy right back for me. Cosmos Elixir, all about stabilization. The extra card draw is super nice. Chromatic Orrery serves the same purpose as our Replicating Ring. This is a much better way, obviously, for much more mana, but it's going to get us completely stabilized. And in the event that we've ended up stealing a whole lot of stuff from our opponents, man, at the end of their turn, tap 5, tap it, and draw 3 or 4 cards. It's going to be great. Hive of the Eye Tyrant, just give me something to do, right? And when he attacks, they can exile a card from their graveyard. So all of these sort of, discard effects and everything. If for whatever reason they end up in the yard eventually or right then, if I don't have my commander out, great. Let me go ahead and at least get rid of those now so you can't access them. Witch's Cottage. If you do not control, if you do control 3 or more swamps, you drop Witch's Cottage. It enters untapped, and if it does enter untapped, you get to take a creature card from your graveyard to the top of your library. Oh, EOT Cosmos Elixir grabs it back, that kind of stuff, right? So grab a creature, get him back, and the creature may be Black Cat or Burglar Rat. Give me some discard abilities. Faceless Haven, just a little bit of a finisher. Oops, I'm actually really bad. I'm actually really, really dumb. I won't ever have 3 snow permanents, so let me just add an extra swamp. Whoops. You guys got me in 4K. Alright, cool. So that's the deck. Like I said, most of this stuff is personal preference or just to fit a mana curve, but I really do think everything in this deck serves a purpose. I'm sure there are better cards for it. If you can think of anything, drop them in the comments. Like I said, I know I want to put Waste Not in this deck. I feel like I could just as easily lose a Boot Nipper or something for something as valuable as Waste Not in the theme of this deck. But, it's been a lot of fun. I went on a bit of a tear with it today. It was something like 6 for 9 or 7 for 9, something like that. I mean, it was a good little run. So I've been having a lot of fun with this deck. The first 3 wins I got with it, they just kind of saw what I was playing. I played a few discard and sacrifice spells before I could even get Tergrid out, and my opponents just gave up because it is very oppressive. If you don't like playing black decks, you will not enjoy playing this because it is super oppressive to your opponents. But yeah, that's the deck. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Leave any suggestions you may have for cards that are legal in Historic Brawl in the comments below. I would love to eventually trick this thing out, like I have done with the commander here and the beautiful art treatments, and like I've got some of these little extra little cosmetic treatments on here. So like I said, I would love to continue to do so. But thank you so much for tuning in, and catch you next time.